Let's go to Kathy in Topeka, Kansas. What's up, Kathy?
Hi, Dr. John. How are you?
I'm rocking on. How are you?
Really freaking nervous.
Don't be nervous. Hey, can you talk directly into the phone? It sounds like you're on speakerphone.
I'm not on speaker.
There we go. Okay, now you're back.
Okay.
All right, don't be nervous. Listen, I don't know what I'm doing either, so we're both making this up as we go. So you're good. You're good.
Okay. We both know that's not true, but
So
okay.
what's up? How can I help?
To stick to what Kelly told me to do.
Hey,
my
listen,
basic question,
all of our lives are better when we just do what Kelly tells us to do. Okay, that's
I
just
agree.
it's a good rule of life. I actually
I
have that
agree.
tattooed on my forearm. Do what Kelly says.
That's a good idea.
Yes.
Okay. So basically, the last 7 years of my marriage, basically the whole time I've been married, has been a roller coaster and kind of the same cycle of stuff, which I know we'll dig into in a minute. But the last few weeks, some boundaries that we have set have been intentionally violated. And I just, literally in the last 24 hours, that cycle has shifted to the next phase, and now I feel like I'm being too harsh or rigid or unreasonable by demanding dramatic change.
So you're talking very cryptically about cycles and things and roller coasters and
Yes.
ponies and dragons. Like, be specific. For 7 years, what has happened? Has he been cheating on you? Is he an addict? Is he abusive? Like, for 7 years, you've been dealing with what?
Like all of it.
So he's been cheating on you for 7 years?
No, not constantly. No, and not. So there was one affair that I know of for sure. And I know that he's had other emotional affairs.
Okay.
Whether or not they're physical, I don't honestly know.
Okay.
He, a couple weeks before we got married, tells me that bipolar disorder runs in his family.
Okay.
And that's not surprising. He comes from a line of alcoholics. So that has been...
So is he an alcoholic?
Sometimes when he will admit it, but yes.
Okay.
He about a year and a half or so into our marriage, 2 years into our marriage, he got actually in a horrible motorcycle accident where he almost died because he was under the influence.
Okay.
We've been married for 7 years, and literally every year, if not more often, like the first few years that he was really drinking heavily, like we would separate. We've physically separated, like he's moved out of the house twice. And we've been on the brink of divorce every year for 7 years.
So what has kept you together?
Every once in a while, like when we've separated, we've started to go to counseling.
Okay.
So he has done that. A couple of years ago, he started to look into being evaluated for depression, anxiety, bipolar, things like that. And he just kind of fell through the cracks.
So you're doing a lot of talking about him. I'm asking you.
And I've done that too.
I'm asking you. Why have you stayed in this marriage through an affair, through an alcoholic, through what I can only imagine is he doesn't come home some nights, through a couple of separations where y'all said, we got to get away from each other. Why have you stayed in this marriage for 7 years?
Well, after the first time, I knew that I didn't help the situation. Like I've never been around an alcoholic in my life up until we got together. And
so you already dumped it back on him. I'm asking you, what?
Right.
Why have you stayed in this for 7 years? You've been a part of the challenges in the house.
Right.
How so? How so?
Well, partially because I didn't know what I was doing.
Stop. Just tell me. Talk into the phone. Tell me. Own this. Own this. This is your life, Kathy. This is your life. You are in the epicenter of your life. Own it. The good stuff and the ugly stuff. What have you contributed that in your mind you feel like you've contributed that meant you should stay? That you played a role in this thing, so I'm sentenced to living in this thing.
I mean, I guess I just know that.
Don't guess, just say it.
It wasn't giving it my all. Like, I wasn't being patient. I wasn't doing everything that I could. I knew there were challenges within me that I needed to fix.
Those challenges, they're back to cryptic language. Have you had an affair? Have you cheated on him?
No, I have not.
Are you an alcoholic?
No.
Are you abusive?
No. I can be condescending.
Okay.
I can be a know-it-all.
Okay.
Even just a couple of days ago, like conversations, like I can be demanding.
Okay.
I'm not always patient.
So
I'm not patient.
Over the last 7 years, would it be fair to say that in some times you've been more his mom than his wife?
Oh, totally.
Okay.
Totally. I've been in counseling off and on, for 5 years.
Sure.
Trying not to be that. I know that I've taken too much responsibility, like looked at because when the arguments happen, it's always, well, he will tell me, well, you made me do this because you keep running your mouth.
And that's gaslighting nonsense, and you know that.
Oh, I know.
Right?
I know.
And conversely, he's not making you do anything either, right? Now, and I know I'm oversimplifying this.
Right.
Right? What I'm trying to get you to do is these things get so tangled up and everything gets all wound up together. The good stuff, and my guess is when things are good, they are unbelievable. When you finally take off mom hat, and I'll even say when you're able to take off your mom hat, right? Because somebody's got to pay the bills and put food on the table and make sure you're not living in a pigsty. I get that. And someone's got to make sure that idiot goes to work. And somebody's got to hug that guy when he's sick, right?
Right.
And vice versa. When he is on, he's not using, he is probably incredibly loving and committed, right? Is that fair?
Like right now today, he's like, it's all puppy dog face.
There you go. There you go.
I love you. And I'm like, but
that's right.
What about the last 3 weeks?
That's right. That's right. So listen, these things get so tangled up and it's hard to pull apart which part I own and which part I just deal with and how much of this is truthful and how much of this is not. And it just becomes a mess, right? And then it becomes, well, if he would just fill in the blank, and then he is saying to himself, well, if she would just fill in the blank, and you get in someone's just got to stop the dance. You've heard me say that before. Someone's got to stop the dance, turn the music off, and just say, what is happening? And these things go in these cycles because the goods are so good, and we allow that to cloud over all the bads. And the bads can be so bad that we let them cloud over the good stuff. And we just find ourselves stuck in this inactivity, right? We're just frozen. So something happened a couple of days ago where you said enough is enough is enough. What was it?
Well, we started with a new counselor about a year ago.
Okay.
And we set down some pretty firm boundaries. Well, firm boundaries. One of which is because when he gets angry about anything, he automatically is, I'm going to leave, or I want a divorce, or, obviously because that's been part of that cycle. And so, for the last year, everything, like we've been, doing okay, working through, issues as they come up and that sort of thing. But 3 weeks ago, he got mad at something absolutely ridiculous. We were trying to get the boat back onto the trailer with my oldest son, who is 20, and he didn't do something right because it was the second time on the boat, and he he got upset. He was like, well, this is why we never take it out. I'm just going to sell the thing, just starts going off.
So he has a temper tantrum like a child.
Right.
Okay.
And so I'm like, all I said at that moment was, hey, just calm down and just chill out. And so when we got home and our child that we have together, he went inside.
How old is that child?
Like, he's 6.
Okay.
Almost 7. And so he went inside and I said, why are you mad at me? Because he's, and it's funny because I literally just heard you yesterday say, silence is violence, and silent treatment is like the thing.
Okay.
And so he'd given me the silent treatment, and again, that's one of those things that we're trying to fix. And I was like, well, why are you mad at me? And he just goes off. He's about how nobody appreciates the luxuries that he pays for because he owns his own business. And he busts his butt. I mean, he does. He is the hardest working person I know. I mean, I can't get him to stop working usually because
he's an addict.
Exactly.
He's addicted to that as much as anything else. But then we get the wah, 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 woe is me. Nobody appreciates the, right. Okay.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And then he says, he's obviously, I'm going to sell the boat. And I said, okay, sell it because nobody likes it when you turn into a bleep every time we take it out. Mm-hmm. And
that was helpful. Says, good job, right?
I didn't scream it at him. So,
it doesn't matter.
But exactly.
But you're like, sweet, a little fire. I'll throw some gas on it. So you threw gas, and then what?
And then he told me to pack my stuff and get out.
Okay.
So I just kind of, it did escalate a little bit more, but I stopped talking after that point. And then the next morning, I was making breakfast because, we go to church every Sunday, whatever. And so I sent our son in to get him for breakfast, and he didn't come. And so I went in and I just kind of plopped on the bed and pretended like nothing happened. And I said, are you going to come eat breakfast? And he says, no, I'll do it my darn self like I do everything else. And I'm like, okay, so we're still there today? And I said, I was like, well, did you mean what you said? Because we've promised each other this has been a thing, that we're not just going to, throw this stuff around.
Yeah.
And he said, well, I wasn't drunk and my blood sugar wasn't high. So, yeah.
So here's the thing, okay? This is the life you've chosen for yourself. And it's not changing.
Right.
And so at the end of the day, you have to have your or what statement.
Right.
And more so for you, you've got a 6-year-old little boy absorbing this, that this is how men handle problems. This is how dads handle problems. This is what marriage relationships look like.
Right.
This is what how grown-ups act. They threaten each other with what I think is the worst thing you can do to somebody, which is to cut relationships. That's what get out means.
Right.
Right? That what you have done, who you are, is so bad, I am severing that relationship with you. And your son is absorbing this as life. This is how this works. Mm-hmm. And Kathy, this is how stuff rolls down generation after generation after generation. And for some reason, the roller coaster ride has been enough for you to hang on there. And I'm not telling you to get out of this thing. I'm not telling you to stay in this thing. I'm telling you that you're getting the life that you allow. And you are living the life that you that you are continuing. And if you've been going to counseling for 7 years with multiple different counselors, and here we are 7 years later, and your husband got frustrated trying to put a boat on a trailer. I've been there. It's the worst, right? It's the worst. But that was enough to make him act like a 5-year-old. Or when he started to act like a 5-year-old, his wife said, hey, will you chill? Which happens to me regularly, and I have to then make a decision. Am I going to double down on being an idiot? Or am I going to breathe and look at my son who's wide-eyed staring at me and I'm going to say, dude, I'm sorry. I know we're trying to figure this out. Your dad's a moron. Or am I going to use silence as violence and huff and puff and stand around my house? Does that make sense?
Sure.
This is the life. So the question you got to ask yourself is, am I done with this? Or is this going to just be my life? And if it's just going to be your life, let me say it this way. You can't change him. You can't. You can only control you. That's it. And it's scary and it's frustrating and it's hard. If you're going to stay, be all in when you stay. Work hard on yourself. Do what you can do in this situation. And if you are married to a guy who rolls over every month and becomes a bear and choose to say, I'm avoiding him. Or if you're going to leave, go. Right now, you've got 1 foot out and 1 foot in. And so you are having this wavering life. Your kid can't stand firmly. You're not standing firmly. Your husband's not standing firmly. But I consider threats abusive, especially relational threats. I consider ignoring somebody abusive. I consider that abusive. And so the abuse in your house has to stop. I consider when you lob grenades back at him because you know he's spun out and he's exhausted and that's not cool either. What your house desperately needs is a big dose of grown-ups, and neither of y'all are acting like grown-ups. I'm not saying that you haven't earned it. I mean, it's been a rough go. I get that. But that house is desperate need of people acting like grown-ups, and they're just not. And so at the end of the day, here's what I'm telling you. You can't control them. You can't. You can only control you. Threats are abusive. Silence can be abusive. Everybody's got to start acting like grown-ups, and you got to deal with you. If you're going to stay, be all in. And if you're going to go, go. Don't be Switzerland here on this one.